Meet Leitz's newest cinema lens line, the Hektor. They're the first T2.1 cinema lenses in the Leica family that are within reach for filmmakers who can't quite stretch their budget for a Hugo or a Summicron. These are vintage-inspired full-frame lenses, and you'll notice that they're quite small, so we've paired it here today with two cameras to show just how much of a punch the Hektor lenses pack. A Sony Burano, which you can see behind me, to capture every bit of texture and character in the lenses, and a Sony FX3 for some dynamic gimbal shots that take advantage of the lightweight designs. Okay, first time popping these open. We got the whole kit here. Ooh, all right, so let's take the widest lens out. We got an 18mm right here. This is the widest in the kit. Oh, very solid in the hands. You can really feel the build quality. This is what I love about cinema glass. It's always just rock solid. You don't feel like there's any chance this is gonna break, unless you drop it, of course. But otherwise, you know, this is just as sturdy as it gets. And let me just go through the list here. We got the 18, and in here we have also a 25, a 35, a 50, 73, and 100mm lenses. All of these, the first 5 of them, are the same length except for the 100 over here. So that makes sense, you know, it's a longer lens, but they all have equidistant lens rings, so all good regardless. Yeah, so let's just pop these on the cameras and get started. Let's see what they're made of. Now I have the 18mm here. This is the widest end of the range. Now the first thing you'll notice is that there is a glare on the right side of the frame. Please ignore that. We framed this up and lit it for the 25mm, so just so you know, it wasn't supposed to be in there. First things that come to mind just with this lens is that there is some warmth in here. I think we're gonna see more of it the more we go in. The high contrast edges in the background and those specular highlights that you're seeing in the lights above towards the ceiling, those are very clean. There's no fringing on them. I wouldn't expect that on a lens like this, but you know, it's always something I want to check out. Let's push in a little more to the 25. This is the lens we actually lit this scene for, so it works perfectly. I'm loving the look of this right now. It has a really nice, just classical feel to it. And now we're on the 35. Again, very consistent. Next up, we have the 50mm. Now you can see the framing is starting to get kind of awkward because we're getting so much tighter. What I do like that I'm starting to notice here is the table in the background in the kitchen. You see the really nice fall off as it goes out of focus. Now we're on the 73mm and things are starting to get tight here, so I'm going to recompose right now. We'll just pan over a little bit, and yeah, we have this beautiful reflection that we're really getting. You can start to see what the bokeh is doing here, a little bit in the shimmer on the piano reflection, and the way that the highlights are hitting his face right now. You can see just a couple of speculars hitting on the forehead, all nice and clear. No issues with the color. It looks razor sharp, but also not clinically sharp. And it's just very natural, organic. I love it. And last up, we got the 100mm. What more can I really say? These are as consistent as it comes, but you can really see the compression playing off here. It just looks wonderful. That's really it. That's what you get with true cinema lenses after all. Matched optics and build. Now at this price point, we're looking at sort of a middle range for glass, which is partly why we're using it on two very different cameras. What stands out first is the size. Every lens except the 100mm lens is 3.47 inches in length. So for the most part, you don't have to adjust the majority of your rig when swapping lenses. But you can also pair these lenses with smaller camera systems like the FX3. It's a similar story with the weight. The bread and butter 25 to 73mm range all comes in between 1.5 and 1.7 pounds, with the outliers being the 18mm at 1.85 pounds and the 100mm, not surprisingly, coming in at 2.1 pounds. Optically, well, these lenses speak for themselves. Let's watch the film. The Hektor lenses share a warmer tone, which goes a long way for a project like this. The lenses flare very distinctly at the edges of the frame, but it's controlled and never overwhelms the image. Bokeh is soft, rounded, and consistent with a 9-blade aperture in every lens. My personal favorite characteristic, though, is the Petzval effect intentionally dialed into the Hektor lenses. On the wider end, this really comes through, and on the longer end, the effect is much more subtle, but still very dreamy. Having a tuned version of this captivating look, something that's often sought after on vintage glass, is so nice. So before we wrap for the day, let's just go over a few more details. Now, as anyone who's used cinema lenses will tell you, one of the most obvious benefits beyond the optical quality is relatively high degree uniformity from lens to lens. In other words, they really do function as a kit. We went over the dimensions before, but the fact that they also all hit T2.1 is a critical part of artistic intent with cinema glass. Remember, aperture is a creative choice, and having the option to go down to T2.1 consistently across the range is invaluable to a cinematographer. The front diameter on all of the lenses is 80 millimeters, but the filter thread itself is 77 millimeters, except for the 18 millimeter lens. You also get both imperial and metric lens markings, so you don't need to worry about having different sets here if you're shooting internationally. Now, today we use Sony cameras, which means we use the E-mount version of these lenses, even on the Burana. But the Hektor line actually comes in a few different options, and this is great for the wide number of full-frame camera systems out there today. You can get these in the Sony E-mounts we're using here, or Leica L, Nikon Z, and Canon RF mounts. Technology and manufacturing today allows for a seemingly endless supply of clinically perfect lenses, which for a lot of cinematographers out there has led to a push for lenses that strive for a certain particular character in their appearance. So with the Hektor series, what we have here is an intentionally softer, rounded, flared look that is controlled and consistent thanks to those same modern design processes. For these modern ultra-high resolution sensors we all have these days, it's not just nice to take the edge off the image, but to impart something unique into the look. So that's it for our time with Leitz's Hektor series of cinema lenses. Let us know in the comments below how you could use them on your next production. I'm Doug with B&H, and I'll see you next time.
Introducing the new PayU credit card. You can save the tax or choose special financing for your purchases made on your PayU credit card. It's easy. The new PayU card, same funny name, your choice of exclusive benefits. Apply today.